All right, Tyler, welcome to the podcast, man. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So, first of all, let's get into your background a little bit. Traditionally we do a lot of stuff with horse trainers, team ropers, but you're pretty unique in as far as like what you offer as like a horseman and a horse trainer.
Well, was raised in Oklahoma. My dad had a commercial breeding farm for, close to a little over 50 years almost, probably. He bred race horses, performance horses, cow horses, cutters and stuff. And so I was just born in it.
Around everything,
yeah.
Every type of horse.
Yeah. Dad roped, he cut, he showed halter horses. He trained some of the best quarter. I mean, he stood Jim J. Last Straw was a thoroughbred stud. I mean, he was very, into the racehorse stuff. When I was a kid and later on in my life too. But if there was a horse he probably had, or an event or a specialty, he probably had his hand in it at some time. So I was around a lot of different things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were exposed to every type of horse and then the show side of it.
Mm-hmm.
At what point in time are you like, this is what I'm going to start pursuing?
Well, it's all I ever did. I played sports, played football, wrestled and baseball and rugby, but I always rode, roped, cut, showed in the pleasure, walk, trot, trail, all that stuff. So, it's all I ever really knew what to do. And then I guess when I graduated military school and came home, I went to Weatherford, Oklahoma 1 year for a college rodeo scholarship. And I came home, worked with my dad that summer. I'm like, school's not for me. I'm going to go pursue this. And my dad, I think it was probably 2003 or 4. He told us that he was going to get on the executive board of the NCHA. So at that point, we cannot show at the NCHA World Show. So there was 5 years of kind of like, where am I going to go? So I rodeoed and jackpotted and kind of worked around. I wish that was the only thing I do regret. I wish I would have went and worked for somebody like a Todd Crawford or a Robbie Schroeder and like stayed there and really built. Because I think it took a long time to get where I am. If I wouldn't have done that, or if I would have done that, I think I would have got there a lot quicker. But it was probably 2004. I was like, this is what I want to do. And I just kind of went about it a little different. There's a lot of curves.
Well, I think it's important, right? Is when the things you try and do, it kind of helps you figure out what you're wanting to do in the path you pursue. Because I think that's the thing when we're close to things growing up, a lot of us just end up doing something similar to that. And I worry that we do it because it's what we know. Mm-hmm. But then I also think, well, you're around it so much, you can find the passion for it. And it's kind of obviously there if, your family's doing it too. So it's probably pretty natural for you to find that. So it's like, it kind of does help it, if you find that passion, but also if you pursue other things, it kind of lets you know like, okay, well, I like this or I don't like this. Right. Or you take other aspects from it. Right.
And it's kind of like, I always rope. I was the roper of the family, but I did show cutting horses and other things as a kid. But my sisters always they did the cutting and all around like the pleasure and stuff like that. And I always just roped, but would do other things. And then when I got older and started training, it was like the horse led me in the direction, not me.
Right.
Whatever horse I had or got sent to me or was riding, I always felt something, okay, yeah, this could be a cow horse or this could be a rope horse. And I just let the horse, pick the direction. And I think that's really important as a horseman. So that was kind of I never really went in a straight line, had tunnel vision about anything. So that's kind of how I got to where I am.
Is that a big relief knowing like when you're on this horse that they don't have to do something specific? Like, meaning I feel like there are a lot of horses that probably don't want to do something or like just are not going to be great at it,
yep.
But there's probably something they could be better at, right?
Yes. And it is. And then, the customer comes into play too. Sometimes they want that horse to do an individual thing. and you tell them, I'm always honest. I'm like, look, this horse doesn't really want to do this. We could try this though. And, and sometimes they're like, well, I'm never too proud to say, it's your horse. If you want to have somebody else try it, maybe it'll work. That's fine, but yeah, it is a big relief to, be able to do different things and let that horse talk to you and stuff. But, a lot of times it comes up to the customer that, they want it to do a certain thing. And, sometimes you got to let it go and let somebody else try it too. So, but yes, it is that's what I love about what I do or my kind of program is it's, I don't have to have tunnel vision, like I said, and let that horse dictate what we're going to do.
So as of like right now, what all of events or shows like in like a typical year, like give me the disciplines that you're gonna be entered in.
So like right now it's November 3rd. We just got done with Snaffle Bit Futurity, and during the Snaffle Bit Futurity, I had 2 horses that 2 3-year-olds I showed in the Futurity, and then I had a hackamore horse, and then two reiners, and that's show horses there at the Futurity. And then I had 8 rope horses entered in the Rope Horse Futurity. And now that we have that over with, I'm going to catch ride for my brother-in-law at the cutting Futurity, the NCHA cutting Futurity, which starts in a couple weeks in Fort Worth too. And then, and actually tomorrow I have to go up to the NCHA World Show to show a junior cow horse. And the day after that, we're going to go to, I guess it would be the 5th, I go up to Guthrie to the Riata Buckle roping, and then come home and, like I said, go to the cutting Futurity and then get a little bit of a break. But the year starts out, general year starts out at the Sun Circuit in Arizona, and there's NRCHA events, which is National Ring Cow Horse Association. There's a Rope Horse Futurity there. There's an AQHA show there. It's all in one deal. I mean, I took 15 horses last year, and we did everything from cutting, cow horse, reining, and roping, and kind of just got the year started. Schooled horses, showed horses, and then we go to. There's 3 major events in the NRCHAs, which is the Stallion Stakes in Vegas, the Derby in Scottsdale, and then we'll come back for the Futurity here in October. So, and then all the Rope Horse Futurities in between. So it's kind of like,
how do you manage your time?
I don't. Very good.
Okay, so no, we gotta dive into this a little bit, because there's so many disciplines, right? And everything requires a little different feel and a little different. I mean, your horses are doing different things in each of these. So like the ages are different, and so this is a lot to like unroll. I think like take me through like your program, like a typical day, like training at your house. Like let's say you got a handful of days where you're riding them. What does that look like? So how do you try to like set up days like that? So
typically in the mornings I will get started. I don't have lights, and I don't really ever want to have lights just because I won't ever quit. And family's number one to me. So typically we'll get up, an hour before dark or daylight, start saddling, make sure everything's fed and stuff. And then we'll typically do the cow horses first, just because there's, like in the summer, it's a little cooler in the mornings. So we can I have to spend more time on them. There's 3 events we got to get ready for, so we'll do the cow horses first. And then when we get through with them, 10, 11 o'clock or whatever, we'll dive into the rope horses, because those don't take as long. I mean, the colts do, but I don't have to put as much pressure and go fast and get them as hot. I can do a lot of maybe we're going to work on the scoring. And so I can spend time on that and not get hot.
Right.
Because I don't mind working in the hot of the day, but I want my horses not to, get rode hard or whatever. So typically we'll do the rope horses in the afternoon, because I can either do the dummy or work on scoring, or just go steer stop, or just heel 1 or 2 steers, as long as they get rode, especially those ones that are seasoned and stuff. Just exercise, make sure their mind's right, and
just a handful of runs if they need it. You're not trying to lose their breath.
Right.
You're just trying to make sure that whatever feel you're trying to put in,
but
you got that.
Yeah. And then, like I said, the cow horses, they take a lot more. So we'll do them in the morning when it's cooler. And then when right now, when it's nice all day, we'll just kind of the same thing. I try to stay on the same program just so we're not going in different directions and, changing what we do every day. But it doesn't matter. We can work all day until, sun up, sun down. So, because the weather's nice. But, and then we have 2-year-olds, and I try to, like if I'm Cole, that boy that works for me, he'll have horses saddled and be working his string and stuff, and kind of give him colts that need more just time and attention. He'll ride those like once I'm get going, and I can just go put a horse up and get on another one and stuff. So I'll tell him, at some point in the day, like, all right, hey, why don't you go start on your string or whatever, and get as many as you can rode, and if I need you, I'll holler at you or whatever. So it takes a team, it takes a village. And he's done a great job for me this year. And so.
Like a solid day, how many horses you getting through?
Well, I've slowed down. I've sent a little bit home right now for this next year, but we had 25 and we could get all of them rode. And like I said, the good ones and season ones, we would every other day those. But like if we're getting ready for a show, we can get them all rode.
Right. Okay, so being efficient with your time, how much help do you got to have to kind of do that? Like, what does that look like as far as like, are those things that you measure, like how many horses that you actually are saddling and unsaddling and washing? Like, so how have you tried to like get that balance so you can get on as many as possible?
Well, I want to work side by side with my people. I don't want them to work for me all the time. So, we try to saddle together, unsaddle. If you get off a horse, you take care of it. And if I'm rolling through some, he'll bring me one to the arena, and take it and keep bringing them to me. It works with one person with me, just because I try to do my part too. Yeah. So we all work as shoulder to shoulder, and not like I'm just sitting there riding them. So I like to take care of my horses too. So my program, it works with one guy, and then I have some guys that come and water and feed or in clean stalls every day, so that helps. But, right. So you could always use more help, but we make it work. And it's more one-on-one with he and I. We know each other, and we know how everything needs to go. So once you get a program established and it works like a old machine, it's pretty easy. And I think less is more sometimes, more just, you can have too many people, I think.
Kind of stepping over each other and stuff like that. Especially, I think once you get in a rhythm too, like you're saying, if you kind of, everyone knows what's going on. And
well, a lot of times I don't have to be like, hey, do this. And a lot of times I'll think of something, he's already done it, or vice versa, so it's pretty good. And he really, really loves the horses, and, and that's the biggest thing, is somebody that cares, and wants to keep those horses, going good, and doctor if they need doctor or whatever, so yeah, it takes somebody that cares and stuff like that. And then, just helping each other, I think, is work as a team.
Absolutely. All right. So we gotta back up on a few things. I thought, you said military school. Uh-huh. What age did you go to military school, and how long was that for? So
my dad and my great-grandfather went to the same school. It was St. John's Northwestern Military Academy in Delafield, Wisconsin. And I went, my dad gave me the option to go my freshman year. And I was like, no, I want to stay home and play football and, horses and all that stuff. And then he kind of didn't give me the option to go, because school wasn't going very good at home. Nothing bad, just he wanted me to get a good education, and he knew what it did for him. And so I went my sophomore, junior, and senior year, and it was the best thing I ever did. It was absolutely amazing. After the kids run the school, it's just run just like an Army. It's Army based, but Catholic. It's a Catholic school, and
right.
Chain of command, everything. You earn your rank, you take care of your kids, you do your schoolwork, you play your sports and all that stuff, and it teaches a young man a lot.
So did you live there at the school?
Yeah, we would get like holidays off, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, stuff like that. And then if you got the higher rank you got, you could have leave on weekends and stuff. And so my sophomore year, I got private first class was my first rank. And then I got up to staff sergeant and squad leader by the end of my sophomore year. And then my junior year, I got master sergeant and then got promoted to first sergeant, which that's your accountability. Welfare of every kid on the, in your company. So you make sure everybody's healthy and know where they are and deal with any problems, blah, blah, blah. And that was a really big deal. And then got my senior year, I was a company commander. So, and then, with your rank and stuff, you got privileges, and we could go take the train to Chicago on the weekends. I had a lot of friends from different parts of the country and world. So it was pretty cool.
So what are some of the experiences as far as to go up climb the chain of command? What is the process of that? What are you having to do to start accomplishing? What does military school look like as far as someone that wants to be there, and then, you're what they're asking of you?
Well, I don't know if anybody ever wants to be there, going and thinking about it, because they think it's a discipline. Yeah,
it does sound
but
right.
That school in particular is the best education in the country, I think, in my opinion. And has the best ESL program in the world, English as a second language. We would get people from Mexico, Russia, South Korea, China, Japan, all over the world to learn English. And a lot of times those kids would not stay there. They would stay a year, get their, and stuff. So my dad always told me, he's like, do as you're told, do it to the best of your ability, and don't argue. Live by those 3 rules, you're golden. So, and that's what I did, and worked my butt off. And I get a little emotional thinking about it. So if you live by those 3 rules in anything, I think you'll accomplish a lot.
Talking about military school, this is a big responsibility. So take me through going from someone's in charge of you, telling you what to do, to climbing this ladder, to kind of being in charge. What does that look like? But also what I'm really curious is the day-to-day discipline that this instills in you, that, that I think you might not realize it today as much, but it's stuff that I feel like it's still got to be there, right?
Oh yeah. So, bearing self-awareness, stuff like that, just having self-pride too. But when you're a private, you got to you get up in the morning, you make your bed 10 and 10. That means you fold your sheets and your bed, there's 10 and 10, and keeping your footlocker clean and organized, your closet. Everything that you do is discipline, and it's teaching you, that it's not just, oh, I'm going to fix my closet, or I'm going to fix my footlocker, or I'm going to make my bed. That's teaching you, discipline, and in everyday life is, to have self-awareness and bearing and pride in yourself, and do stuff and do it to the best of your ability and stuff like that. And the more you do that, I think the easier life gets, and pressure and stuff like that is not a big deal. And then when you carry that, you do the right thing, and you, just like I said, don't argue, do everything to the best of your ability, and do what you're told, stuff like that. Those 3 rules. And you can climb that ladder and get, more rank and stuff. So it was just the military deal is do as you're told, do everything to the best of your ability, and don't argue, and be there for the man next to you. Always, it's a team. Army is not one man, right? That's the way life is too. You can't do it by yourself, in my opinion. You got to have people around you that make you better. It's not like you want to go rope with somebody that's all the time that's not as good as you, or not wanting to be as serious as you. You put yourself around people that are going to be successful and stuff, and you'll I don't know if I'm kind of waving off here, but it'll, make you better. And
you're good. Well, the other thing too with this is like, what happens when you don't make your bed correctly? Like, as you're getting there, like, what are some of the things that, because obviously you probably didn't know how to make your bed correctly when you showed up, right?
No.
So what happens?
I don't even know if I ever made my bed. No. There's demerits. There's guard path. There's discipline. You do push-ups. You walk 100 hours in guard path with the M1 rifle on your shoulder, and in the winter of Wisconsin, it's not fun.
Right.
You write an essay to the president of the school telling you why you did something wrong. You stand at attention with your nose against the wall. There's discipline, and there's repercussions for things you do. And depending on what you do is how you get, disciplined.
And does it start to, I guess it teaches you the accountability too, right? There's repercussions of not doing something that might seem like that you just take for granted.
If you, so to speak, half-ass something, you're going to get in trouble for it. You're going to do push-ups. That's not how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to do it 100%, do it the right way. There's right and wrong. Do it right.
Well, and doesn't that apply to showing horses so much? There's like all the little details on like what the horse looks like, how they're presented. The eye appeal is something that's looked on so much. That's
what I was trying to get to a minute ago. Like, the things that we do, make our bed and Foot Locker and closet and stuff is, it's how you look every day, how you carry yourself, how you're, you don't need the fanciest stuff in the world, but as long as it looks good, your horses look good or taken care of, you present yourself right. You have your shirt tucked in, your hat cleaned off, or, we wear beards, but as long as they're not looking like we just came out of the mountains,
Look like mine.
No. But, I always say bearings, how you present yourself and your things. They may not be the best. They may not be fancy, but
they're the best to you.
Yes.
They're your best, right?
And they work. Equipment's put together. It's not, it's taken care of. It's clean. Just little things like that, to me, present a big picture of success. To be successful is set yourself up for success, stuff like that. And if you carry yourself that way in everything that you do, you're going to climb that chain of command, in life.
Yeah. Well, and I feel this way. And you kind of want to I want to half-ass things all the time. Like, why do I want to do this? And so you got to you kind of got to break habits. And then pretty soon you start doing things without even realizing it. And then like my truck or something will just be a mess. And I don't realize it, I think it's the little things in there, right? Is that kind of something you got to constantly be aware of? That kind of maybe
takes
helped?
A lot of self-discipline. Like my last truck, we just, thank goodness we just got a new one from Bill Fick, and my last truck, it got to where it was like both the kids were in the truck all the time with me, and and I was like, I'll clean it in a little, but no, I was like, I have made myself, I'm like, every time me and the boys, I'm teaching them now, I can't, lead by example. I can't just I was like, all right, yes, we take snacks, we take water, we do all that stuff in the truck. We got to, they need stuff to eat.
Yeah.
But when we get home, we open the doors and we take the trash out, we clean it out, and and it makes me feel good. It's like going to the gym. It's hard to go to the gym, but once you do it and get in that routine, it makes you feel better.
Right.
And not to say that I've been doing that, but it's the same thing. It's like you get home, you clean your truck, and you have, self-discipline, and it makes you feel good. You're taking care of your things, and you're teaching, like me, I'm teaching my boys that, not to just, all right, I'm done with that. I'm going to throw it on the floor and then let's leave it there. No, we could clean our trash up, make our stuff look good, just like you're talking about.
Right. So the other thing from military school that you mentioned was you're more in charge. Like as you progress in the ranks, you're in charge of your peers, kids your age, and you're in charge of quite a few of them at some point. What does the dynamic look like that? Because also you did say English is their second language. So now you have a language barrier with your peers. And then on top of it, like what I'm really curious about is how do you try to lead and not be the asshole, the guy that is like in charge that no one wants to follow? How do you try to be someone that they kind of want to look up to or like do, work with, I guess you'd say?
Well, that's exactly right. That's what I was about to say. Just like I was telling you, how my program works is I try to work side by side. I wouldn't ask anybody to do anything that I wouldn't.
Right.
And I might be the first one out there sweeping the floors just to prove to them I'm not better than anybody, but this is what you're supposed to do. And so it's just like a guy leading a battalion into the command. They're probably going to be the first ones off on the battlefield and the last ones off.
They're setting the tone.
Yep. I mean, and so that's how I always led my guys or talked to my lieutenants or XOs or sergeants, because as a company commander, I didn't get to, I interacted as much as I possibly could with the kids and, or my cadets as they were called. And, but you got to teach your XOs and your platoon leaders and lieutenants and all that stuff, how to lead them in, their squads or their platoon or whatever. But so it was just, I tried to work side by side and lead by example. And some of those kids, they would see me sweeping the floor or cleaning the bathroom as a company commander. I'm like, I expect you to do it. So, I don't want to ask you to do anything I wouldn't do. So
right.
I just kind of led by example, tried to.
And then now, as you move into being a horse trainer, you have two aspects that are, I think the two hardest aspects are the business side of it. Mm-hmm. And you have clients that are sending you horses. So managing and dealing with clients, how is the communication process and how is that, it just seems like this kind of, a lot of this applies, but could you kind of talk to me about that a little bit as far as?
It made it a lot easier going to that school from the kid that I was before I went and the man I am now. It made it a lot easier just to be able to talk to, but always be honest.
Just tell the truth.
Doesn't matter if it's good or bad.
Right.
Be honest. Do not take advantage of anybody that you ever ride for just because, tell them. And it's always their opinion. If they think maybe a little time is better, that's their opinion, but you be honest at all times and talk to them. And we all get caught up in life and I need to be better at it. I want to be better at it. Even if I am good at it, I want to be better at it. Talking to my guys or my people or my clients or people that own the horses and stuff like that. And the people, our sponsors and stuff, I try to always reach out to them and stuff. But, it's very simple. Be honest with them. Do not lead them astray and just do the best of your ability. And if you can do a 1% better every day for that horse or that client, in 100 days, they're going to be.
You're making progress.
Yeah.
So being honest, that means you're going to have some hard conversations because typically in relationships like with the show horse, the clients are paying for like entry fees. They don't get to see the horse day in and day out like you do, and they have these expectations. Like the results are really like based on a show.
Yeah.
So this is a huge pressure that now that you have to take on.
If you don't perform and if you don't bring it, it's hard for that client to keep doing it. So it's and like sometimes it doesn't go good, and you got to be you got to tell that client, or you don't have to, but you tell that client, I've done the best of my ability. And there's tough horses. The horsemen that are out there right now are absolutely, the best you'll ever see. And hopefully, I'm growing my kids into this and hopefully they're better than I am. But right now it is tough. And if it doesn't go good, I can deal with a bad cow or something, but if I put a mental error or if I screw up, I don't do well with that. I don't accept mental errors. I try to be strong and no one's going to be harder on than myself, but like you got to tell your client, and they're going to be upset and you just got to have that conversation with them. And as long as you did the best you could do, it's all you can say to them. But a lot of times there's a lot of variables. There's barriers in the roping. There's this, bad steer or something. Maybe might not get a rerun. That's understandable, and you just got to roll with the punches. But if you aren't you don't prepare yourself or your horse good enough, that's on you. That's mental errors, you know. So you got to be really, they're paying the bills. You got to make sure that you're doing your part,
right,
to be successful for them and their horse.
Let's dive into this whole can of worms of mental errors that I feel like everyone that competes, that they have to work, fight these demons all the time, right? Well, first of all, showing horses is feel, right? Mm-hmm. Like you have to have feel. Is that correct?
Yes. I mean, you're trying to present the best picture to those judges,
right?
And so if your horse is, you just got to have feel during your run and where that horse's mental game is that morning when you're getting ready to show. We try to prepare them. Like we'll stay up all night working horses in an arena, like say for the reining, because they're going to be in there by themselves. So we want to get them in there and get their mental, thoughts and how they're going to take stuff. And so we spend a lot of time getting their mind right too. So, it takes a lot of feel. Like, man, this horse is a little hot right here. So I'm going to spend some time just letting him know it's not a big deal. Try to get him to come back to me. And if you get in that show pen, you get by yourself and he gets raised up or she gets raised up, you got to have feel and be like, hey, find a way to either hum to him or talk to him or, where you can secure them, wrap your legs around them or close your hands and they just relax and come back to you. You got to have a lot of feel. You can't just manhandle anything in there. You can't just, because the judges will see it. And so a lot of times it takes so much feel, really.
Well, and I think this is the thing that's really unique compared to roping, right? Roping, I think you got to be in the moment. And there's a certain that initial, when the gates crack, you got to
instinct take over.
Yeah, you got to be ready, but then your instincts take over, but it's happening so fast. Mm-hmm. Where showing a horse, you need to be so in the moment the whole time. And then you need to be really aware of everything else that's going on. Like if you are working a cow or something like that, you got to be able to kind of manage both, but then your horse at the same time. Yeah. So the room for mental error seems much, much higher, right?
Yes. Because it seems like say you're in the reining pattern, there's so many maneuvers and transitions that it seems like you're in there a long time. And if you feel like you've been in there a long time, it usually is good. Yeah. Like Doug Clark always told me when I was roping calves, paint by numbers. Like rope that neck, get off. There's steps. He always taught me to do it. And he the fastest calf I ever tied was 7.2 and it felt like 10 seconds. Right. So in that reining pattern, I always thought to myself is if I paint by numbers, do my maneuvers, teach them, the transitions and relaxed everywhere, you feel like you're in there a long time. And if you hit everything right, it's usually a good score. In my mind, and this is probably ridiculous to some other people, but I think if my horses hit those transitions and you feel like you're in there a long time and you can think about stuff as you're doing it. And this is just me. I feel like most of the time it's going to be really pretty good in the end result. But if you feel like you're like, oh my God, and then we're, just going fast everywhere, it's like it's control. It's uncontrolled chaos, in there and stuff. And like the cow aspect of our stuff is, you got to make decisions. And you have to make them now. Right. Right or wrong, make a decision. Because if you don't, you're late. Like going down the fence.
You need to be proactive as proactive as opposed to reactive.
Yeah. Yeah. So you got to, when you're going down the wall and you go to make that first turn and you're watching your cow through the turn and you're seeing how it comes, you're thinking I'm going down the fence and I turn this cow, I am watching how it's coming out of the turn. If it's going to come behind my horse or if it's going to go back down the wall, I know where I'm going to come back to get on the other side of it, or I'm going to go down there and loop it and set another turn up. And you got to make decisions because you're like, oh, that feels good. Oh, the cow left me,
Yeah, because that's the thing is I think there's a lot of times where you're looking for a feel and then they hit it. Like if it's a big stop or a big rollback like that and they hit it perfect. And you're like, this is awesome. And then you're behind. Yeah. And I think that's but that takes away, you're focused on the result as opposed to what to do next and staying in that. So,
but like I was going to touch on, but the mental game, like that stuff is, for me, if you're in tune with your mental game, everything feels slow is what I was trying to get out, like paint by numbers and stuff.
Yeah.
You're just almost so in control of it. It seems like in slow motion.
You're in the moment, yes. Right? Like,
and you can.
There's a lot. I think I always go to this, but I call it like in the zone, flow state. Like, but you're like so immersed in the moment.
Yeah. That the maneuvers don't feel fast.
Yeah.
And you may be hauling the mail,
right,
but it doesn't feel out of control. So that's where I was thinking. Like, I mean, if you got it going on, and it just feels like time has stood still.
That's awesome
for me. Well, and not very often do you feel that, but I mean, like you do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what makes it special, though, right? This is the high of highs, right? Because I think once you hit a stage, you can correct me because I'm sure winning is great, and there are times where it feels awesome, but the actual process of winning, like how it's happening, like you're just so immersed in that moment, is probably more enjoyable than actually being done with that moment, right?
Yeah, I mean.
Because there's so much more hanging on the balance.
It's
right?
Like when you're done with it, we as horse trainers, it's like, that you hear that term of, when you almost die, life flashed before your eyes. Like when we have that moment in the arena and we knew it all came together and we know we're a chance to win or whatever, it rewinds. It flashes all the things we did with that individual to get to the point where we are now, and that's why it's so awesome for us. Cause like everybody, they don't ever see behind the scenes. They just see in the arena. They don't know what it took to get there. And that's what I love about the horses I get to ride. And they're not the best ones. They're not the high dollar ones, but that's okay. But I've made them better. And that's my deal, is I want to make every horse that's ever sent to me better, so that's why it's so good for me. I like that part of it is all the work you do up to that moment. And if you do get to that deal, that's the great feeling.
Right. Well, I think that's what is the best way to go about it. Because if you're only worried about the results and you only care whether you win or lose, there's so many variables outside of your control.
Yeah.
But if you're programmed, we talked about, you take a lot of different horses in and they might go a lot of different directions depending on what the horse actually wants to do. So to take that horse from the beginning to where he's at now, and then have a great run, that feeling's worth,
for me, yes.
No one could probably pay any amount of money to feel what you're feeling at that time. Yeah. And it's like something,
and it might not be for first too.
Right. And I think that's when that's when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? Yeah. That's when you're like, hey, this is something, I'm doing something truly special with my time on earth, right? Like I try to measure it on that.
It's not about the gold buckles,
right?
For me. I mean, I love to have them or, get some someday, or more or whatever, but I just want to be known as a great, family man and a great horseman when I leave this world. So, that's the part that, it's not all about the gold buckles and winning first, but yes, it is fun. And I'm very competitive. So it's not that I don't like that, but I get a lot of gratification out of making a horse better.
Right. Well, if you do it right, you do all the steps right from the beginning to the end with this horse, to when you show him. If you take every step and you do your very best for the horse, the winning will take care of itself.
Yes.
You might have bad days and you might get screwed at times and you might have some heartbreak, but that also is what makes it so good too, right?
And like this year has not been a great year for me.
Right.
I've won, made some finals and stuff on a couple of horses, but as a whole, I would dock this down as a successful year due to, made horses better and, some great things did happen, but it wasn't a great year. It was pretty mediocre at best. But you got to take the good with the bad. And it's like, keep doing what you're doing. Keep your, nose to the grindstone, as my dad always said, and keep your head down and keep moving forward. Corey Cushing says, he got a tattoo right before the world's greatest last year, They're the middle of the year, and it says good things happen to good people. That's what he lives by now. And we were sitting at the Snaffle Bit Futurity, and he was real nervous about his horses this year. And because, you know, he's been moving to Texas from Arizona, and I was like, man, your horses are doing good. You made, you know, good job. And he's like, I can't believe it. I'm like, good things happen to good people, bud. Right. And we, you know, we give high fives and we walk off. So, I mean, just, there's more important things than doing all that, you know, gold buckle stuff, but just, you know, just keep your head to the grindstone, or nose to the grindstone, keep moving forward, and, you know, winning will take care of itself.
Well, and I think finding like what you're truly passionate about, right? And you said something earlier that I thought I think this is a good way to find out for people, like if they want to be a horse trainer, like if they truly love it. You mentioned riding under someone for that 4 or 5 years that you couldn't show. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what you think as far as like apprenticeship and riding under someone, because to me, what apprenticeship means is you're exchanging your work for knowledge. You're not like, the financial compensation should be probably just enough that you can survive. Yeah. But the knowledge that you're going to learn will apply for a lifetime.
And that's far and few between right now. It's like, that's why everybody wants to be not me. I mean, I don't think I'm at, you know, at anybody's level. I think I'm just me, but you know, that you have to sacrifice to get to where we are. When I was growing up, and all of my, you know, peers, we lived in shacks and shanties, and, you know, lived on Roman noodles, didn't make very much money. And a lot of people even lived worse that are more successful than I am. But you've got to put yourself out there. If you want to be successful and you want to do this, it takes so much sacrifice, and you really need to go to those people and live off their words, right, and their teachings and stuff. Don't worry about making money right now. I mean, that'll come. If you can survive, and as long as you don't have a family that you have to provide for or something, if you're an up-and-coming guy that you want to be a horse trainer, well, it starts with the 2-year-olds. You're not going to get show horses right now. You're going to do some of the dirt work. You got to build those babies. You got to build that foundation. Like, that's my biggest deal, is if you don't have a foundation, you don't have ever, you know, if you run into a problem, you never have anything to come back to. So as an up-and-coming horse trainer, you better learn how to get those colts going. And then you build, it's just chain of command. Walk that ladder up, right? You got to start out as a private if you want to be a captain. Right. So my advice to those guys is just because, don't look for that big paycheck. Look for the guy that you look up to, you know, that you admire, and ask, and don't. My dad, he always asked questions, even if he thought he was annoying, and he probably was annoying a lot of those guys, and they said he was, but he never stopped asking questions. Right. And if you act like you care, and you keep asking questions, and you keep getting better, those guys like us and Corey and all those guys, they'll give you time, give you their word, and help you get to where you want to go. But you can't just expect it. You're not entitled to anything in this industry. You better work for it.
You know, the work, right? Because that's the one thing that you said, you wish you'd have rode underneath someone and like learn.
I did it the hard way.
And so let's just kind of, I don't know that there's a number, right? As far as like years or time goes, but like you're saying, learn how to start with the 2-year-olds, learn how a horse works, learn how to fix problems, basically learn how to train, right? Like learn what you need to be able to install in these horses, and how to train, teach them how to do these, you know, these maneuvers as efficiently as possible, right? So with that is where you were like, you kind of grew up in it. Or no, you did grow. No, you grew up in it.
I was born in it.
Yeah, you were born in it. But then there was a time like where you're going out on your own and you're doing your own thing. It's the school of hard knocks for a very long time, because now you have, you're trying to get into the world, And then you have the financial aspects that I think this is where a lot of people really falter. And I think they put too much pressure on their horses. And I think they ruin a lot of horses for this reason, because their career is depending on this horse. And it should be the exact opposite. You know what I mean? They should just be like doing what this horse needs. And then they're going to, the rest will take care of itself. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong with this. I don't know.
No, it's totally right. Like, the only regret I have is I wish I would have worked for somebody. Like, I was born in it, and I got to learn a lot of things from my mom and dad. I mean, everything. He would hire guys like Frank Dominguez to come start 2-year-olds at our house, and I learned a lot from him. But it was just like it was in frames. It wasn't like a movie. You know what I mean? Like, so to speak. Like, I learned a little bit here, and I learned a bit here. I wish I would have just dove right into it and not taken that zigzag approach. That's why I say I did it the hard way. I learned a lot from a lot of different people, and and early on, and I just did a lot of different things. But I wish I would have worked for somebody and then climbed the ladder, the right way. Because I didn't go to work for anybody until I left my dad's, and went to work for Carol Rose and Wes Adams. I worked for Brandon for 2 years, and then I worked for Carol Rose, and then I went kind of on my own. But and my brother-in-law, I worked for him for 6 years. But I did this after I was married,
Right.
So talking about that financial deal is like, I kind of went about it the wrong way, and that's my big advice is if you want to do it. I mean, I understand if you have a family already and stuff, make sure you're taken care of. But it's. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but
I haven't really asked a very good question in the sense of like the topic and what this is how I feel about it is like, for me personally, like starting a business with X Factor. When I looked at it, I had played around with the idea long enough that I was like, all right, I like this and I want to try it. And it took me probably a year or so to get to that point, maybe 2 years. But when I started, I thought I would try it for 7 years and then I would make my decision.
Right.
And I thought, this is a big enough deal that I want to stick with for 7 years, and I'll do whatever it takes for 7 years. And so I did put a number on it, but I think the number that we put on something is like, I'll go ride with the guy.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like 6 months or a year. And I think you see a lot of the great, the rope horse guys that I think that come out really high end guys, like Cade Rice is a great example. He was rode with Clay Logan for over 10 years, maybe.
I think right at 9-10 years. Yeah.
He worked under Clay Logan for 9 or 10 years. And I think that's how you truly learn how to master something, is you are around someone that's great day in and day out for years.
Yeah.
And it is, I'm sure there are times where you must think I could go out on my own and make it. But then there's probably a lot of little lessons learned for so many, so long. And I think that's the thing is you probably got some of the lessons you had to learn were you didn't get to watch someone else or learn it from someone else. It had to be your own. And so when you get to those, it just takes longer to make those mistakes and work through them. Right.
Yep. And I mean, for me now, like I said, I wish I'd have done it different, but I have learned through trial and error.
Right.
And yes, there's some times where you have to push an individual, and then there's sometimes you got to get out, and you got to know when is what, what is what, when to get in and out of a horse, that experience I've learned the hard way and stuff. But there's, there's no, I can't remember, think of the word I'm thinking of or want to think of, but there's, to learn under somebody and to get a program is the biggest advice I could ever, learn who you are.
Right.
And like Cade, he worked for Clay Logan. Clay Logan was the best, or is the best in my mind. He's like a second dad to me. He's a great guy, great horseman. He's a great cowboy. He doesn't wear that hat lightly.
Yeah, Clay Logan is the real thing. If you could ride underneath someone for the job that Cade Rice had was an amazing opportunity, and he didn't waste any of it.
No.
And you're now seeing the results of 10 years of just, he's worked for longer than that.
Cade even called me and he's like, I'm nervous to give it. I'm like, bud, you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
You are you worked under Clay. You have success already. He's done great things for you and with you. You guys have made a great team. Don't be worried. And I know it's nerve wracking and makes a man nervous, getting married and having a family and stuff. But I knew Cade was going to be successful.
Yeah.
I mean, he's great, and he's a great horseman. He's a good hand, and Rope's great too. So, I mean, that's success in its own self. So, it was just, I don't regret it, but it's made me the man I am today and the horseman I am, being able to kind of figure things out on my own. Sometimes I always ask for other people's advice, but sometimes I can get myself out of a pretty good jam with a horse most times, but it's just, yeah.
Okay. So the next thing I think that's really unique is teaching these horses how to win and the confidence side of things.
Yep. That's a big deal.
How do you try to manage that and keeping a horse confident? Because I think the ones that are confident, like to me, when I especially like a showy horse, if they're confident, that means they're hitting moves hard with like no fear. They're very physical with how they do things, and they're going to almost, but they can almost do too much, or they can. Very rarely the ones that do too little end up being great horses. Like as far as like winning a lot,
right?
There's ones that are smart and intelligent, and how do you try to keep that? Like if you've got one that teeters on between doing too much or not enough, how do you try to manage the confidence?
So, first off, knowing what horse you're on, don't ride the next horse like you did the last one. When you lay your leg over that horse, know that horse, and that's it. Do not think about making that horse like something else. So if you have a horse that's not the best athletic or most athletic horse, but has a big heart, put them in a situation to win all the time. So it's easy for them. Don't ask them to do something they can't do. So if they win all the time, they know they can win, so to speak, right? They think that's all they can do is win. And then when they draw, it's like those horses that can't outrun me hobbled. There's horses out there like that, but that you can win on them. So that's how I like, if you have a slow horse, don't make it a struggle on them as a young horse, run those steers they can get to, or, just make them win all the time. And then 9 times out of 10, they're going to give you everything they have, and they're going to get there somehow. And it's not going to be a struggle for them. And then if you have a horse that does too much, or, is so athletic, I don't like to take that away from them. And usually if you have a horse like that and you try to slow things down, they get mad. Right. Do you agree?
I'm now thinking I'm messing up a lot. You know what I mean? Because I do. I try to make them do less. Like, is my thought.
Like Ryan's big deal, like his, Rocky and Starbucks. Those horses were like bombs going off when he would leave that box. I mean, they were they were powerful horses. Yeah. So on the dummy, he would lope down the arena and then turn the corner and make that dummy trot, and he would just let them break down. That was their take it easy deal. And then like when he would run steers, he would run the steer for what it was, but he wouldn't take them off that run, right? So like I have a head horse, Easy. I got him from Cersei. He hates going half-ass. He doesn't like me to run in there and just, so I'll, keep him legged up and rope the dummy on him and just do what the dummy does. But like, I'll make 3 or 4 runs for me and him and go full contact. And that's what I do. And then I'll score some and then I'll walk him out or whatever. But if you have a horse that wants to do too much like that and they get mad at going half-ass, in my opinion, and people may disagree with me, I don't want to take that away from them. I don't want them to get mad. I want them to be happy. So I'm going to let them do it in a controlled way. I mean, I'm not going to go try to be 5 every time or 4, or whatever, but let them go make that run for that steer. Whether it's a slow or fast, just go make that run. Don't try to do anything. Just be there with them. And then like if you have a horse, like I said, that's not as athletic or wants to do less, don't make it hard on them. Let them win and build that confidence. And then in the end result, they're going to give you everything. And then in their mind, they think they can't lose.
Right. So do you, with these horses, because I think a lot of that, like I kind of define, like you said, like win on them, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've kind of got to define what the win is for them, because for each horse it's going to be a little bit different.
Right.
So like, what's a win for a slower horse? Well, it's going to be just catching up to the cow at a good spot and making a good run.
Yep.
And it's going to be the same, you know, it's going to be the same but different for every horse, right? So understanding what that is when you're on that horse and how it's going to be different. When they mess up, do you try to fix things, like, and you know that there's a good chance they're going to mess up? Like it's a horse that, whether it's a head horse scoring or whatever they might do, it might be like they don't rate going to the cow. Is this something you're going to try to fix on the next run? Like if it happens and you miss it, do you try to fix it as the run's over, or do you try to do it on the next run? Or
I try to fix it. Well, if like you say, you do miss it, or it happens before you felt it or something like that. And Tim McQuay says this, like he was back. I learned this from somebody, but it came from Tim McQuay. He's one of the best reining horse trainers ever. Somebody was backing a horse up for like 30 feet, and he goes, "What are you doing?" Right. He goes, "Well, just getting this horse, get off whatever he's doing." He's like, "That horse forgot what you were doing after the 5th step."
Yeah.
And I always thought about that as like, it's like when you discipline a dog for pooping in your house when he did it 5 hours ago, it's pointless, right? So if you do miss it, it's okay. There's more steers. Go try to be ready for it the next time, whether he rates or whatever. But if you can catch it before it happens, try to, correct it. But I don't scare them or don't make a big deal about if you do miss it. Just go abandon ship and go back and address it the next time. Because if you miss it and then try to address it, the horse is like confused.
Do you think this is a big mistake that team ropers make, is training too much after the run as opposed to during the run?
Yes.
Is that the biggest mistake? I mean, I think that's like,
I catch myself doing it too, but it's just, I think it's human nature. You're trying to fix stuff, but you got to really, and that makes me think about stuff I've probably screwed up on this past couple weeks getting ready for futurity. But yeah, I think, make the run, think about the run, go address it on the next one.
Right.
And I think your horse will it won't get confused, and it'll pick up things faster. And I mean, that I just learned something right there too. I mean, like
it goes back to confidence though, right?
Yeah. And that's a big deal I preach, but the way you just said that makes a lot of sense, because there's times like I'll be done with the run facing, and then I'm moving my horse's body parts going to the strip and shoots, which that's okay, I think, sometimes, but don't try to get too deep into it. After the run, let that horse think about it in any run, whether it be you just got done working him in the reining or the cutting or the cow, or, going down the fence, or the roping, heading, heeling, roping calves, breakaway, whatever. Let that horse think first.
Right.
Don't stay in them. Like I said, learn when to get in and when to get out, and let them process information, because some of these rope horses we have are a little harder and stuff, and don't like pressure or get a little bit wound up after pressure. So let them, like, that's why a lot of people take their ropes off in the arena. And I like to go to the strip and shoot. I like to let the rope go or follow the steer down or whatever, just so that horse has time, especially the young ones. I mean, I know we have a lot of horses to ride, and people do things different, but in my opinion, I like to go to the strip and shoot after a run and get my rope and walk back to the box. And yeah, it takes longer, but my horses, I feel like, stay a lot better, and, mind-wise and stuff, and just little things like that. But I think you can cause a lot of problems if you're just don't know when to get out and just relax and let them process stuff.
Well, and I think too, like when you get in and get out with cues, the amount of pressure that you apply has got a lot to do with how fast you need to get out. And then the other thing with that is, as you apply pressure to horses, at what point in time do they forget why they're getting pressure?
Yeah. And
I think the ability to self-evaluate that is different for each horse and each rider. Mm-hmm. And I think if I truthfully had to think about it, it would be a high percentage of the time for me, they don't remember like what I'm trying to teach them after a run. It's done a lot sooner than I think it is.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a big mistake I think I make, and probably
we all do.
Yeah.
I mean, for a horse to process, or it's in anything, I think, is when you're asking them to do something, as soon as they give it to you, you got to give back.
And make a, like, the give back. I think that is something that we don't put a lot of emphasis on, right? Like you're saying, hey, like I like to walk them off, or like let them ease down to the strip and shoot, or rest at big points. Like I think that's is more important than anything. Like, for example, like if you're riding a young head horse and you might run 4 steers when you could run 8, but if you're letting them rest for a long time after they do a good job facing, through the run after they face, or you lope them off and kind of make them face, or whatever you decide to do with them. If you let them sit there and relax and kind of enjoy it, I've found that my horse will just sit there and lick his lips, and I usually let them sit as long as they kind of want to. Yep. And then when they start wanting to walk, then I go get my head rope. And it takes a long time sometimes.
And it's not my program for, or anybody. I learned that from Chad.
Yeah.
I went and roped with him one time, and every time he faced his horse, he would let his rope go, and you'd overface him or whatever, young, old, whatever horses. And he would, he might conversate, but that was his big deal, is like it seemed like he was just letting them, and if they didn't do right, it's not that he probably wouldn't let them sit there very long, or whatever. But if they did right, like, he is big on that. Yeah. And that's the release. You did a good job. I'm not going to do anything. So it's not like, I like to pick things up from other people and put them into my deal. So I can't take credit for anything that I'm saying. I've learned this from everybody else.
Well, how important is humility, right? Like, I don't know at what age I decided that, or learned that I really don't know I don't know shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I've decided here recently, I every year I get older, I learn that I know a lot less than I thought I did. Yeah. And that's been hard to swallow. That's a hard pill to swallow. And I think horse trainers and anyone that wants to compete, we want to think that we're good enough, right? Or like that's a big battle that we all got to fight. But then understanding, like, there's so much to be learned. So how do you balance that, the humility, or when did that actually start to come into play for you?
When you, at some point in a man's or woman's life, when you're doing something and you're not winning, or you're not successful, or you're not getting better, you got to understand, if it's broke, you got to fix it. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And that's where, like, the cow horse people, in my opinion, are so awesome, because it doesn't matter. They'll bring you up. If you ask a question, they'll help you. No matter good, bad, or indifferent, they're going to tell you the truth, and they're going to help you. So, like I said, don't ever be bashful. Ask for help. If you're not doing good, something's not working. You better change something if you want to keep doing this, because, one, you're not going to have clients because you're just too stubborn to change your ways. Well, and then it's like Clay Tryon. How old is he now? And he's admitted he's had to change his game.
Right. Clay's not young anymore.
He's
40. He's getting a little long.
Yeah. He still probably can beat me in baseball, but
he's still unreal.
He's a machine.
That guy's
that's a perfect example. He's never stubborn about his profession. He changes to stay on top, and so he's not stubborn. And so I think, if that answers your question, right, you can't be stubborn about things. You got to keep moving with the times. And if it's not working, go get help.
Right. From
some you admire, or some of you don't. I learn things from everybody every day. And so I just don't be closed-minded.
So what's the opposite side of that is, like, for example, if I talk to someone about my heading swing and they give me advice, then I try it out on the dummy, and I think it's stupid after it takes me a while. And it depends on, like, usually who will give me the advice, but I got to be able to form my own opinion about what I need. And is that something that, that you think is really important? And how do you try to do that between when they tell you something and then you try it? And then how do you, you might take a little piece of it, or how do you ride that line?
Grain of salt. My dad always said, take it with a grain of salt. Okay. Don't change your entire deal. Try to take that and make your deal better.
Right.
And if you like their advice and you think it makes sense, like I always, like Brock and Ryan and I were roping yesterday, and Ryan was talking about the entry through the corner for me and the angle of my heel rope. And I was like, okay, yep, got it. And it did make sense, but it didn't click. And then Brock walked up to me and he's like, hey, I always think about, I can rope anything that is under my tip. And I'm like, well, that clicked for me.
Right.
And then what Ryan was telling me, it just meant mentally, bam, I got it. It made sense. But it was just the two different ways they were explaining it. I took it the way Ryan, I can understand what he's talking about most times.
Yeah, no, it's just people explain things differently, and we process it differently, right?
So don't take it like the gospel. I mean, take any advice with a grain of salt, think about it, process it, and try to make it into what you are able to do. Just like I'd say, ride that horse for what it is. Don't ask it what it can't do. You know, if you can't do that, just try to make what you can do better by what somebody has given you, you know, and it's hard for me to explain my feel or explain feel to anybody for a horse or whatever. There's a method to my madness. A lot of times people probably look at me, watch me ride a horse. They're like, what is he doing? But it's just, I'm big on I think about angles a lot and this, that, and the other thing, and just what that horse can do in this situation. And it's feel, you know, and so I have a hard time explaining that to people in my non-pros. I've gotten a lot better now that I put myself out there, but it's hard.
There's a way to explain feel, but if you have to be thinking about what you're feeling, you're not going to feel it till it's too late.
Yep.
And so there's a difference between feel and muscle memory, you know, and I think but that goes back to like how good of a trainer you are. And that's why, you know, you get to train and show horses is because to actually build feel, I mean, it's got to take
years.
I mean,
a lifetime almost. I mean, I still learn, like I was doing it with a new 2-year-old the other day, and I thought about an angle, and I learned a new feel for a way a horse steps. And it was pretty cool. I mean, I sat there and I was just like pumped, and it made me more motivated to get on him the next day and do it, you know, with some more other horses. It's just, if Matlock Rose, one of my dad's mentors, he told me, if you ever think you know everything, you might as well quit. Yeah. So wake up and try to learn something new every day. And a lot of that I learn is from my horses. Right. You know, like my wife says, I can speak to horses better than I can people, which I think that's very true. And I could not do something like this. I know. I mean, like,
right.
And I still have a hard time getting my point across sometimes, but it's you know, don't ever stop learning, and you'll learn and feel the more you put yourself out there.
Well, and the more time you spend doing it, and the more time you like think about it, and I think this is where the humility and all of the humility and time is really important, because you know, you're self-evaluating, you're trying to understand what your horses are doing and what you're making them do, and to like know when you get in and get out with cues. And it's crazy the older I get, how much I realize how little I know about how to ride a horse, and that's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah,
but
and I go back and forth. It seems like, man, I'm having a hard time with this left circle or whatever, and I'm like, man, I didn't feel like I had this problem last year, years before or something. And it's just, I mean, it's just something you constantly have to work on, and you know, keep your game on, you know, going forward, and not, oh, I got it.
Right.
It's fine, you know, because then it's not going to be fine. And so, I mean, there's times I gotta really concentrate and exercise myself to get back to where, you know, it feels good. Because sometimes it doesn't, and it's not them, it's me. Sometimes, you know.
Yeah, because there are some things that might not be 100% muscle memory for us, and we might let little things creep in, or we might do something that we're not even aware of, and to try to become aware of all the things that are happening. And I think that's also where the bad horse training comes in again. You know what I mean? Like we're giving them a cue, and they're doing what they're being told, and then we punish them, and then you're like, the horse doesn't know, and now this is how horses get effed up pretty fast.
Yeah.
Okay, so I need some advice. I want to hear your perspective on this, because one thing I've really struggled with throughout just kind of going through with X Factor roping and creating this, I at that time when it kind of got rolling, my head headed a lot, and I still do, but not like it just was different now. You know, I feel like I have this business and I head steers. It's hard to be like 100% into one thing. And I think you're somewhat similar in the sense of you show in so many different events. So it's like you can't be 100% into one thing.
No.
So how do you have peace with not being 100% into one thing? And like, what are some of the perks about that, being able to have the multiple disciplines?
I think I do. I think I'm comfortable in chaos.
Okay.
Me.
No balance is chaos, right? Like there's just so many things going on.
I feel comfortable when I'm for me, it's, I can change. I can go from working a cutter to getting on a rope horse and change for me.
Yeah.
How I balance that, I don't really know. Okay. Maybe I'm crazy.
Well, no. So I want to be more specific in when it's not going good. Like let's say you feel like you have messed up, and you've dropped the ball for a horse, or because that's what happens to me. Like I'll rope bad, and I'll be like, man, if I were spending more time on my roping, I would not have this performance.
Yes. Oh, definitely. Okay. So you got to get yourself behind. Like this year, I want to concentrate on getting behind the barrier more and not going to the majors. I want to put myself behind, the local jackpots and stuff like that. That's where I felt like this past year, I struggled a little bit is I didn't put myself in those situations to, not the pressure got to me or anything. It's just, I needed to get that feel behind that barrier and see those scores more and, do that more this coming year is what I would like to do, because I felt like that good yellow horse I had, when I did show him, when we went to those big majors events, I felt like I dropped the ball. I would make a mental mistake. I would break the barrier on the second one or miss my damn dally on one, up there in Rock Springs. And then I went a go around. I'm like, if I would have put those other two, together, I, would have had a chance to win it or whatever, So I think I need to put myself in practice in those situations more, not just at home.
Right. And so does it bother you that if you don't feel like you've got to dedicate that time and then you're not able to put it into something else? Or is that just something you're just constantly like, you're okay with the kind of riding different horses and kind of, do you see where I'm kind of going with this?
I'm not okay with it because the time takes away from other time.
Yeah, there's no balance, right? Like, and I don't think there's balance in life when we actually like get down to it. But it's like, what do you got to like tell yourself that you're okay with that? That there like isn't going to be balance.
I feel like I'm the modern day Bo Jackson. Like I want to be known to be able to do everything, and I will put myself, sacrifice my body and mind to do it. That's what I want to do. Yeah. And yes, it's very hard. And there's been times customers think that I don't have time to do the rope horses or because I'm not the cow horse. No, my crew, that boy that works for me and stuff, we make it work. They don't see behind the scenes. And I want to tell anybody that ever wants to, prove me wrong, come watch, hang out with us. We make it work. And yes, I might go to a cow horse show and the rope horses stay home. Well, that's why I have great friends like Ryan Moats and John Ryan Foster and customers that understand that if I'm gone, their horses are still getting rode. And whether it's my guy that works for me or I might, like John Ryan, he's really good with them hill horses, and young ones. And I'll send a couple to him that need a little extra work. The ones that I don't think need extra work, Cole, he tracks the dummy at home and ropes the track steer. And then, Ryan, if he's home or whatever, he'll ride a couple for me or whatever. I make it work the best I can. And if a horse needs extra, I make sure that either go with me on the road to whatever we're doing, and I'll stay on them. I'm paying the guy that works for me out of my pocket, and I trust him to do the job that I'm doing. So that's how it all works. I think is we have a program, and there's a lot of moving parts, and as long as you do the best of your ability, I think it works in the end. But it's stressful when you think about it like that. But I've never even really been asked that question.
Well, I stress about it all the time, but that's why I wanted to ask, because I think it's important to understand, like, for you, that's what you're supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If
everybody outside, like my wife, she lives with me, right? Yeah. We have 2 kids together. She's out there every day and she thinks I'm nuts. She's like, why don't you just concentrate on one thing? I was like, well, one, I get bored too easy with one thing. And not that I get bored with it. I love riding horses, whether it be one thing or the other. But like, I just, what if that horse can't do it? Then I got to have it somebody else. And I want to make that horse better, So if it can't do the cow horse or the cutting, I want to, and if I can't make it better, I'm not too proud to send it to somebody else too. But I just, I think I'm comfortable in chaos and doing different things.
And probably, like, at your core, you'd say, the horse is the most important thing, but the ability to show the horse to the best of their ability, well, there might not be a specific, like, the dream for that horse with the owner or whatever it was bred for might not be what it was like, feels like it should be doing.
I guess I could say it like this in a very short, I just thought about this. So back in the day, all these events got started from the cowboy life.
Yeah.
Okay. Roping got started from doctoring a cow out there, and we're going to see how fast we can do it, right? The cow horse got invented from showing how broke your horse was. All the cowboys got together and like, how fast can we pin this cow?
Yep.
How many times, how far can it slide? Well, I guess that goes back to being a cowboy. Is I want a horse to be able to do anything and everything. I mean, being broke, I guess that's the heart of my deal, is having a broke horse that you can do anything on. And whether it can't do this or that, I mean, it's broke enough to be able to do anything. It might be able to cut a cow very good, but you can kind of, get a cow out of a pen or whatever, or rope on it, go doctor a cow, go in there and do a reining pattern. Just a broke horse, I guess, is the short and sweet of it. I just thought about, it's pretty simple to say, is I want a broke horse that can do anything on. And that's kind of, I do everything on any of my horses. Like my 3-year-olds that I showed the Snaffle Bit, I rope on them.
Right.
Just to do something different, and let them win, jerk on something every now and then. But I guess that's kind of just, I just thought about saying that, it's pretty simple.
I like that. Okay. Well, I just got one last question. Yeah. Especially being from a team roping kind of podcast or background that we got, you've had some big wins in the show horse deal. Take me through, probably your biggest win or your most memorable win, and kind of like what goes into it, like a little bit about the horse and kind of how it all came about.
Well, I mean, as a kid, I grew up in we didn't junior rodeo much and stuff. We were a show horse family, but I did get to go to high school rodeos and junior rodeos, but and that was good to learn how to be, against the clock and stuff. But I was always raised in the show horse world. And so I guess I won 8 world titles in the AQHA, or American Quarter Horse Youth Association, in the calf roping and heading, and made some finals in the heeling and stuff like that. And then won a bunch of year-end stuff in the show horse world, and that instilled in me to be correct, and to show and to present a good picture and make a really pretty run.
Right. And
then once I got older, when the clock got involved with the jackpots and the rodeos that I went to, it was, it was more of you kind of the looks of it go out the window and just try to, handle that steer the best for your partner, or heel it fast or whatever, or rope your calf fast. The looks kind of went out the window, and it was just go get the job done. But I guess, as a kid, the AQHA, that was very, very very important to me. I still wear one of the buckles every day that I won. And it taught me a lot of, responsibility and, how to do things correctly in a run and stuff. And then, I guess the older, I was second high call. I was high called at the World Series a couple of times. I mean, there's not one specific thing that comes to mind. It was all of it, I guess. I mean, at the roping deal, I won one of the 12 Heartland over there in Graham with Gabriel Salgado a couple years back. That was a big deal. It was probably the most money won at one single deal. Won 4 runs put together and won 35,000. That was a big deal. Help financially with the kids and stuff.
Oh, but, yeah. Anytime you win 35,000, it's a big deal.
And Gabriel and I still talk about that. We need to do it again, and that's kind of one of my bucket lists too. Speaking of just, goals, and is I would like to win every Heartland, but right. I don't know if I can. I guess I'll have to heal in the lower notes, but just, like going to those Rope Horse Futurities, I get to rope with my heroes, Trevor, JD Yates, and, and Steve Orth and all those guys, and Cade and Clay Logan. I don't know. I don't really rate success on things I've won. It's just things I get to do.
Yeah. The moments.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a hard question. People have asked me, what's your favorite deal? I'm like, and it just, my mind goes, I have no idea. It's just because I enjoy just doing what I'm doing. And, that's how I measure success, is the people I get to be around and the things I get to do, and get to spend it with my family and
what a good way to measure success, right?
Well, I hope I do that every day. It's hard to get caught up in the moment sometimes, but when we're sitting here talking about it and there's nothing else going on, that's how I really think. So.
Oh, that's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for everyone listening, we appreciate it. One thing that we're going to do, we did a video shoot the other day, and we're going to dive into a rundown here, and we're going to, go through some of that. So it's going to be kind of fun to hear, your perspective on what you got on a horse that you get ready to, that yellow horse that we talked about that you showed at the Rope Horse Futurity. Yep. So thanks again. I appreciate you doing this.
Thanks for having me. It was really good.
Thanks.